Okay, good everyone. So on today's video, I'll be doing a quick analysis on how I was able to get this particular trade on XAUUSD. So you know, from previous week, price has been creating multiple high and multiple lows on gold. Price has been creating higher highs and higher lows, creating multiple break of structure on gold. So if you see on my chart, I already mark those break of structures out. So you see from this point here, after price did a market structure shift from that point, you see price came back into that region. If you should go to the lower time frame, you'll be able to see there's an order block at this point here. So price retested on the order block first. Price retested on that order block after the market structure shift on the lower time frame. Then you see price push to the upside, creating a break of structure at this point. So after the break of structure, what next? You have to look for another order block. So, and one thing you should know, if there are multiple order blocks on this other side, what you do, what should come into your mind is that you should always mark the first order block. Always use the first order block on this particular line. So from here, after the break of structure, you mark out the order block. So if you should trace that back, you see price tap into the order block and push to the upside again, taking out this previous high, creating another break of structure. So after the break of structure, what next? You should look for another order block or breaker block around this region here. So now, if you should trace it back on the lower time frame, you will see this order block around this region here. So if you should trace it back, you see price we use the order block, then push to the upside again, creating another break of structure, breaking above this previous high, creating another break of structure. So what next? After the break of structure, you will look for another order block that price will probably retest on. See if you should use this order block here. You see price tap on the order block, push to the upside, breaking above this previous high, creating another break of structure. So what next? You look for another order block again, just continue that pattern. You see price kept on breaking above previous high. So on this point here, which price broke above that previous high, if you should go to a lower time frame, let's go to the 15-minute time frame, for example. Let's go to the 15-minute time frame. So from this point here, if you should mark the order block out, mark this order block, you see price use this order block, price use this order block, then see price push to the upside, breaking above that previous high. Price push to the upside, breaking above that previous high. So from this, what next? After the break of structure, what next? You should look for another order block or a breaker block after the break of structure. So now if you should trace it to this, if you should look, sorry, so if you should trace that back to this other side here, you see there's a valid order block here which got violated. And from my previous video, I said an order block that got violated has automatically turned into a breaker block. So from this point here, you see price broke above the order block, turning into a breaker block. Then you see this first pullback. This first pullback didn't tap on the order block yet, so that has to tell you the order block is still valid and price is gonna use it in the future. So now if you should trace this breaker block to the right side, you see price tap on it, then push to the upside, creating another break of structure to the upside. Price created another break of structure here again. So after the break of structure, what next? You should look for another order block or another breaker block. So let's move to the higher time frame. This particular breaker block, I was able to spot that on the higher time frame. So now if you should look from this point here, you can see this valid order block here, and the other block got violated, which eventually turned into a breaker block. And you see price push to the downside, tap on the breaker block, then distributed to the upside, creating another break of structure. Price created another break of structure here again. So after the break of structure, what next? You wait for price to create to come back again to mitigate the order block or breaker block. So now from this after the break of structure here, so if you should look from that line here, you can clearly see the breaker block here, which is this is the breaker block here. So we expect price to mitigate the breaker block. So you see I drew this blue line, I drew that blue line on top, then I indicated that as my breaker block. So if you should trace it back, you see price came back, tap on the breaker block, then distributed to the upside. When taking trades with taking trades on gold, most especially gold, always try to use breaker blocks. Avoid using order block, because most time price will eventually disrespect your order blocks and use the breaker block. So after the price use this breaker block here, next step is to mark the next break of structure, which is this price broke above that previous high, creating a break of structure. So after the break of structure, what next is to mark the next breaker block. So this is the next breaker block. That's an order block that got violated and it turned into a breaker block. So if you should trace it back, see price just almost tapped on it with a few pips here, then you see price distributed to the upside, creating another break of structure here, So what next? You expect price to come back again to tap on the breaker block. So this is the next breaker block here. If you should trace that back, you see price tap on the breaker block, then distributed again to the upside, creating another break of structure here. So always know that you must always mark the break of structures so you can be able to know the next movement of price, or what price gonna do in the future, or what price gonna do next. So always try to mark your breaker blocks up. So after that, you can clearly see the next breaker block here. So if you should go to a lower time frame, you should be able to see that very clearly. So on the lower time frame, this is the 15-minute time frame. Okay, you can clearly see it. That's a breaker block right there, an order block that got violated and it turned into a breaker block, but price hasn't mitigated it yet. So if you should trace that back, so if you should trace this blue line back, you see I already placed my entry at that point, and you see price hasn't mitigated that yet. So now you see price create, this is the first pullback after the break of structure. So I'm using this as my inducement, which is the first pullback after the break of structure. So you see price creating multiple break of structures, just like that, multiple break of structures, just like that, up to this point. Then you see price now coming to the downside. So I feel this movement here, price is gonna use it to take out sell side liquidity. So it's gonna clear this, price gonna use it to clear this whole sell side liquidity, so it can be able to tap on this breaker block before distributing back to the upside. So this is my analysis on XAU USD. And also I was able to get this particular trade on XAUUSD. From here now, you can clearly see price has been creating multiple break of structures up to this point. You see price created, okay, sorry, price has been creating multiple break of structures. We go down to the 15-minute time frame. Okay, price has been creating multiple break of structure. So from this point here, you see price now created a market structure shift, pushed back again to the upside to tap on this other block here. Price tap on that other block, and you see this movement to the downside, breaking below this previous low here. Price broke below that previous low, creating a break of structure. So what next? After a break of structure, what next? You have to look for a breaker block or an order block that got violated. Okay. So from this point here, you can clearly see this order block here that got violated, and it turned into a breaker block. So I just drew the line back, put my entry at the tip, and you see price tapped on it, then distributed to the downside, taking out this first liquidity at this point. Took out this liquidity. Price also took out this liquidity. Yeah. So what am I expecting price to do next after this movement? Price now has distributed from this point now. So this is how you can always get this setup next, like one setups after another setup. So you see price now distributed to the downside. So what next? Price has automatically created another break of structure here. Price has automatically created another break of structure here. So what next after the break of structure? You have to look for a breaker block. You have to look for a breaker block, and the breaker block should be you have to look for a breaker block, and the breaker block should be from this region, the left side of the chart. Breaker block must be from that region there. So you can see from this point here, you can't see if there's a breaker block there. So what you should do, you have to go down to a lower time frame so you can be able to spot the breaker block. So now from here, you can clearly see this order block. This is an order block that got violated, and the order block has automatically turned into a breaker block. So what you should expect price to do next? First thing first, you draw out your breaker block. This is the breaker block. So you can put your entry at the beginning of the breaker block, then your stop loss just a few pips above the breaker block. Then your take profit, you should be aiming for this previous low, or you can use just a few pips below that previous low. So this is how you can always get set up like this on XAUUSD and some other pairs. So now from there, this is also an order block. Remember I told you from my previous video, I told you at every previous low and every previous high, price always leaves an order block there. So and these order blocks, once they get violated, they turn into a breaker block. So let's say for example now, price move from this point, distribute down, breaking below this order block here. So automatically that order block has automatically turned into a breaker block. So now next thing, you have to trace this down. If this order block gets violated, turn into a breaker block. So you have to trace this back now, then you'll be using that as the breaker block. Then you see price come back again for the breaker block, then distribute down just like that. So this is how you can always get this kind of setups using order blocks and breaker blocks. So that's all I have for today. So Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on the notification bell, like and share my videos, and also stay tuned for more updates. Thank you.